Joshua Goodman, the Andean news director for the Associated Press, joins us now via Skype from Caracas. You've been out there today. The protests look larger than they were last week.
They look about the same, but that's pretty damn big. We haven't seen protests like this for a number of years, and I think there's really a sense now of optimism, which we also haven't seen for a year. People feel like change is kind of just around the corner. And the crowds were extremely, excited to see the Juan Guaido, who's declared himself interim president, telling them that, in the next few days, they're going to be starting to receive humanitarian aid in some of the neighboring countries around Venezuela.
What does this do to Nicolas Maduro? I mean, he's literally got out his window a man who claims to be the president of the country with thousands of people supporting him on the streets.
That's right. And Guaido and the opposition is not really staying put. I mean, organizing a humanitarian aid convoy from Colombia or Brazil, that's a huge undertaking, which requires a lot of support and a lot of authority, a lot of cooperation with other partners in the world. So they are sort of proceeding in two tracks. On one hand, they are still fighting for effective control of the state, but on the other hand, they're carrying out diplomatic relations and sort of already implementing some of their policies to get Venezuela's economy back on its feet. Maduro needs to be worried. He's never been in a situation like that. Chavismo, which, by the way, celebrates 20 years today in power, has also never been in a situation like that. The one missing piece for the opposition right now is the military. So far, they've been pretty loyal to Maduro. We've seen a few minor defections and little uprisings, but for the most part, they're not showing any sign of changing their loyalties en masse right now.
All right, there was an Air Force general who kind of made a selfie video, Mr. Yanez. How important is he in this arc of lots of military brass?
Well, he was not a household name. I had never heard of him before his video. He did it, we think, from Colombia. He does command troops, though, and he says he represents the sentiment of 90% of the armed forces. Look, I mean, there are generals there who do have power within the military, and there is a view that, if a major one of them defects, say the defense minister or one of the people who people do know, that they would bring with them large swaths of the military. But, the armed forces in Venezuela have gone under quite a bit of ideological training over the past 2 decades. And it's also got to be said that they're not extremely organized in the way they were in the past. So we could see a situation where some generals defect, but others remain loyal. And I think that that's really sort of the worrisome scenario, a scenario where you have soldiers fighting soldiers for either two of the sides of the political argument here, and that could produce a lot of bloodshed.
What happens on the streets in the meantime? I mean, is there any respite for the kind of economic calamity that's happening? It's not like because that there is this hope on the streets that there is suddenly bread on the shelves.
That's right, and it's going to get worse. The U.S. sanctions announced the other day against PDVSA are going to, we're not sure when, but in a matter of weeks, not months, going to lead to much more shortages, much more misery for Venezuelans. It's now basically impossible for Venezuela to export its oil to the U.S., which was its biggest cash market. So people are going to have to hunker down. And, I can just tell you, I know many people who are starting to stockpile food, fuel, and we could be in a situation at some point, I don't know when, where we'll see gas lines in the country with the largest petroleum reserves in the world.
And what about those neighboring countries? At this point, are they all aligned with Guaido?
Not all of them. Many of them are. There's a few dozen that have recognized Guaido. Maduro has support, especially among, the hard ideological left, Bolivia, Nicaragua, Cuba, but also some more moderate countries like Mexico and Uruguay, countries that are trying to promote a dialogue, believing that, basically this show of force will run its course, and at some point the two sides will need to sit down and negotiate. The European Union is sort of in play right now as well. We're going to see where they end up. They have at once, the European Parliament at once has recognized Guaido, but there's also a proposal among the EU to sort of create a contact group to, again, try to facilitate some sort of political negotiation that eases tensions here.
All right, Joshua Goodman of the Associated Press joining us via Skype from Caracas. Thanks so much.
Thank you.